borrowers, is that correct?
Yeah, so specifically we're targeting today, Dan, those who have recently converted to 1099. So we've talked about before 1099 only loans that typically have 1 or 2 years of 1099. But today we're talking about people who have recently converted as little as 1 month ago.
Really?
Yeah,
How exciting is that?
extremely actually. Because you know, Dan, we run into this all the time. Um, certain professions are, very likely to move between W-2 and 1099 at any given time.
And what kind of professions are those, generally speaking?
We see that a lot with truckers, and we see that with nurses. Everybody wants to, they're a nurse, they want to move to travel nursing. And they want to do that right after they fill out the loan application. So with conventional options and the more typical government loans, we have to wait, as usually the 2 years. Someone tells you that a lot of loan officers will say, sorry, come back in 2 years. Well, not with us. We're able to help them as long as they can have just 30 days of pay with those recent 1099 conversions. Um, so it can save a good bit of deals that would otherwise be dead.
So tell us the details.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. You have to get 30 days worth of pay documented. You need the contract documented, and you need to prove that they did have 2 years in general history doing that. So this is, again, it's recent 1099 conversion, not recent 1099 employee. So they need to have been doing this, probably W-2. So you take that history and you take the 30 days of pay. They apply a simple 25% expense ratio, and you are done. There's your income on the loan, saving the deal.
Nice. So what are we looking at, like down payment wise?
Yeah, so you can go to 80% LTV or a 20% down payment.
Okay.
Um, and we can go as low as a 660 FICO on this.
Okay. Okay. So I mean that's good information for realtors as they're talking to clients, right? And the clients, they have you been employed for 2 years? Yes. Are you self-employed? And a lot of clients that probably have done this are like, well, no, I work for Joe's Trucking Company, right? And they don't realize necessarily that going from a W-2 income and now converting over to that 1099, that they're technically self-employed at this point, right? And
Yeah.
so when they're talking to their agents, and their
Mm-hmm.
agent send them over to a NEXA loan officer, we
Mm-hmm.
ask those questions and uh, then we ask for the documentation and they're like, wow, I don't have a recent pay stub, right? You
Yeah.
know, so well, what happened? You had pay
Well,
stubs from last month. Well,
yeah.
I signed a new contract and now I'm this 1099 employee.
Yeah.
But now we have to ask those harder questions, right? Well, how much do you have
Mhm.
for down payment now? Because a month ago you only needed 3.5% or maybe 3%, right?
Right. Absolutely. No, it's interesting because some clients will not know whether they are 1099 or W-2 because a lot of these companies that are employing a lot of, or I guess not contracting a lot of workers who are 1099 are providing pay stubs or are providing regular audits of pay to the person they've contracted. And so they may understand that they signed something, but I've talked with people who before are not so sure about the differences. They're just like, oh, this says I'm an, independent contractor. They're not really thinking about what the difference between that and being an employee is. So I've had some clients be even surprised about that difference. Um, And some companies may force people to move to 1099. They'll end their employment contract, just send them out when they usually get like an annual contract, and all of a sudden they don't really notice that the verbiage in there has changed. So that's why I like this program, is because for those people who have the down payment that will work, it can really save the day. I had just recently an orthodontist of all people have changed from W-2 to 1099 just in the middle of moving states, and their old employer did it one way, and this new company wanted to have them come in 1099. They had no idea. The realtor had no idea up front. They just thought, oh, here's, they have an employment contract, let's go. But when you read the contract and see the verbiage, you're able to see, oh, wait, we got to do something else here. But again, you're able to save the deal with just getting as little of 30 days income that you can show.
So what would we look for, like on a, like you said, they probably still get in the pay stub, right? So
Mhm.
what might we look for on that pay stub that would help us indicate that they are, a 1099 employee versus a W-2? I would think there's some telltale signs, right?
Absolutely. So the pay stub itself is going to look different, and it usually pay stubs will classify whether the person is actually an employee or an individual under a contract, a contracted individual, independent contractor, so to speak. So you can look for that. Other times at smaller companies, I've just come across this once or twice where it actually is somewhat difficult to tell, just because the pay stub in general is not by like a national pay stub provider, or any sort of large payroll processing company. It's those mom and pop shops sometimes will have no other information other than just what was paid, and so that's the times that we need to look back in the contract. But basically, if you look and you see that someone is an employee, they're a W-2. um if you look and you see the word contract, you see 1099, you see um independent contractor on there, that's the big telltale sign that we would be looking at this. And again, this program will work for people who have been 1099 longer. It's just really what's unique about it is that you can do it in just very recently converted 1099 individuals.
Excellent information. Um, do we have any questions from our gallery? If you have questions, you can raise your hand. You can put it in the Q&A or the chat, and we're here to answer any questions you might have. What other details do you think they need to know?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of really great things that you can pair with this product that I think are important to bring up. So you can actually have a non-occupant co-borrower with this, which is great because a lot of these non-QM loans won't allow a non-occupant co-borrower. Um, and so you still can have that. You also can have a lot of gifted funds with this program. So, again, a lot of times when you have these types of non-QM products, you run into issues where all of a sudden a lot of the niceties that we're used to in conventional financing go to the wayside. But not with this program. You're able to use gifted funds, and you're able to have non-occupant co-borrowers if needed. They're also really flexible about the type of borrower. So it's pretty darn flexible program. It's very, very similar, I would say, to, it would be a very seamless transition if you had a borrower who had 20% down conventional financing to just move them over here. You wouldn't be running into a bunch of extra bumps in the road.
Excellent. Yeah, we don't have any questions. We're only 10 minutes into
I
this.
see, I see
We
Drew.
have a hands up. Let me
Oh, there we
have
go.
Drew.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes. You turned
Okay,
your camera
perfect. I have
on.
a question. I was actually getting ready to type it into the Q&A. So my wife is a travel nurse and she works with a placement agency or like a recruitment agency. And that through that agency, they place her in the hospital. But she's technically an employee of the agency, not the
Mhm.
hospital. So at that case, would she be a W-2 employee?
Depends on how the agency's actually paying her.
Mhm.
Right, right. Well, they give her insurance. The pay stub technically comes from them too as well, not from the hospital.
Are
And
they
they manage the
withholding tax?
contract with the hospital.
Are they withholding taxes though? That's generally the
Yes,
indication of a 1099 versus W-2
yes,
is
they withhold taxes.
okay, so she's employed by them and she's not an independent contractor in any way, shape, or form.
So then how would that affect, let's say, because she was with a travel agency for a long time and she couldn't be in her home state with that agency, but now she switched last November to an agency that allowed her to be a contract nurse locally. How would that affect her employment history, being that she switched W-2 roles from agency to agency?
So as long as we can verify the 2 years employment history, with her being W-2 at this point, makes us a simpler process.
Right.
Okay, still just have to verify she's been doing the similar type of role for that period of time.
At least 2 years, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Drew. Yeah, I mean, those are the types of situations that we're talking about where it's not always apparent whether someone is 1099 or W-2. And again, that's a profession that we see this a lot of times in. So it's not surprising that you would have that question. We get those kind of questions all the time. I think we have another one from Vic.
Go ahead, Vic. You're on mute. There you go.
Cash out is also 660 FICO, 80% uh,
Cash
LTV.
out, cash out on owner occupied would be 75% at 660.
75%. Okay. And is there a lender, specific lender that is more
Yeah,
open to doing this 1099 conversion?
yes, but we don't discuss that on the realtor unplugged.
You can get with your
Oh,
NEXA
you don't?
loan officer.
Okay.
a
But
feeling
a lot of the lenders are doing it, or just a handful?
just a handful.
Yeah, yeah, just a
Okay.
handful.
Okay. I'll get with you then whenever the time is. Thanks.
As a reminder to all the NEXA loan officers that are in the group, you had extensive training last Thursday, or had the opportunity for extensive training. You would know the answer to that question had you attended it. And so we try to leave this for the realtors. I mean, the presentation is for the realtors to give them just more tools in their toolbox, and
Right.
not necessarily the big deep dive into who the lender is, because NEXA's the lender, right? Always.
That's right, Dan. That's right.
So
Um,
they should get with their NEXA loan officer that went to that class, that presentation that Amy did last week for you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for realtors on this, I would be looking back if I were a realtor, I'd be looking back in my CRM and seeing, maybe did I send a lead to a loan officer outside of NEXA that shut down someone due to employment history issues? I would be looking back at those, combing through, seeing who I could find and reaching back out and seeing if it was due to one of these issues that we can totally work with. Because if you can come back and in the last 2 years, find 5 people that don't quite have, 2 years 1099 to average for conventional financing, well, that's 5 new deals you could have with your next loan officer right now. So absolutely be combing through, be looking for it. This is a really good opportunity.
All right, we got any other questions, comments? No more hands up?
I think we
I
had
don't
one earlier, but don't know if they're still there.
Probably made them feel bad because they're an NEXA loan officer. They didn't want me to call them out.
And and they put their hand down. But yeah, I don't, Dan, have you run into this a bunch with any other industries than what I have mentioned? Nursing, truckers, we see that. Anyone else that you can think of that should
I
be like
mean,
key?
think of our own industry.
Mm,
We have LOs that, come to NEXA where we allow them to be 1099 and they were previously W-2'd. It could apply to our own industry, as they move from company to company, you know. Um,
absolutely.
I mean, I think of, like landscapers, you know,
Mm,
that maybe move from one company to the next, where they, um, like you say, one company may be W-2'd and the next one, prefers everybody to be independent contractors. So, um, but I don't think it's limited to any particular industry. It could be any of them. More and more companies, I think, are seeing the advantages of contract employees. From liability standpoint. Um,
absolutely.
So.
Oh, in the chat, they've seen this for pest remediation providers.
Pest remediation providers.
Yeah. A lot of services, a lot of services, a lot of trades.
Yeah, I would.
Um,
So what's our topic next week, Mia?
So we'll be having DSCR loans, and it will be hosted by Brad Tate.
Okay. Seems like
oh, wonderful.
we've had kind of a on a cycle of self-employed income this last couple months, and so hopefully we've given everybody just one more tool for their toolbox, one more idea, like Amy mentioned, an opportunity to go back into your database and find those clients that maybe you couldn't help, because they did make the change, and now, there's possibly an option for them. She mentioned, large gift funds, are now, available with this program. So just because they may have only had that, smaller down payment, maybe, maybe Uncle Al's got some money he wants to gift them, and
Absolutely.
you know, whoever it might be. So, there's always opportunities out there. We just have to go find them, right? So,
Mhm.
well, I don't think we have anything else, and I'm not one to just kind of hang on and hang out. So we'll see everybody next week, right back here at 10 a.m. and we will go over the DSCR products. Everybody have a great week, and Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Take care.